Long ago in India, where Buddhism came from, Buddhism was competing with Hinduism. And within Buddhist practices and Hindu practices, the violent imagery you see in Tibetan Buddhism was used as a sort of spiritual warfare against their Hindu counterparts. To combat this, Hindus also used similar imagery against their Buddhist counterparts. Unfortunately, today there are still metaphors for violent overthrows of another person's belief. These were delegated to what Tibetans called Dharma protectors. Dharma protectors were the older religion's spirits who were subdued by Buddhists in service to Dharma practitioners. On the top of this diagram, you see fully enlightened Buddhas in their wrathful form, Yamantaka and Vajrayogini. On the bottom, you'll see two Dharma protectors that are traditional for Tibetan culture. The top ones are responsible for practitioners' enlightenment and insist in spiritual development. The bottom ones are Dharma protectors. They help Dharma practitioners with worldly activities, such as gaining wealth, subduing enemies, or removing obstacles. Dorjee Shugden is like no other Dharma protector. His specific specialty is to keep the Gelugpa lineage pure. Gelugs have been the dominant lineage in Tibet. The 5th Dalai Lama is known for unifying Tibet under the Gelug school of Tibetan Buddhism. After defeating the rival king Gelug school of Buddhism, the 5th Dalai Lama made a deal with the Mongolian army and used the Mongolian army as his military force to conquer the rival kings of Tibet. Lamas often use tantric practice to visualize conquering their adversaries in the 16th and 17th century. Their adversaries were seen as having wrong views because they were following the wrong tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. Dorjee Shugden was used as a protector to conquer Tibetans who were not practicing pure Gelug lineage. After securing Tibet under one rule, the Great Fifth limited the practice of Dorjee Shugden, limiting it to only a very few venues and limited its practice to the proper place in the hierarchy of the Tibetan Buddhist deities. This is important because Dorjee Shugden today is controversial because some say he's a fully enlightened Buddha. However, the 5th specifically limited the practice to a Dharma protector. Dorjee Shugden is a Dharma protector commissioned to protect the purity of the Gelug faith and is considered an evil spirit by other Tibetan Buddhist lineages. Another practitioner of Dorjee Shugden was Pabongka Rinpoche. Pabongka Rinpoche. Pabongka Rinpoche was considered a great master and his monastery was in a location in Tibet where the Gelug tradition was weak. One of the duties of a Lama is to spread his lineage. And since Rinpoche was such a charismatic teacher and had many followers, he was very effective at this practice. Unfortunately, some of his disciples took matters in their own hands and forcibly converted a Nyingma monastery to Gelug lineage. The 13th Dalai Lama once again put restrictions on Dorjee Shugden practice to only private venues and never in public. The 13th Dalai Lama, as well as the 14th, both believed in a united, non-sectarian Tibet. He is one of the great lamas of the Gelug lineage and considered the root guru of many of today's lamas. We need to keep in mind that Tibet had a very different society in the 19th and 18th and 16th century, and many of these lamas were merely following traditions and expectations of the day. That doesn't take away from their brilliant and eloquent philosophy of compassion and wisdom we read today from these great gurus. But that doesn't mean we have to take all of what Tibet was into the 21st century. The Dalai Lama considered some practices of Dharma protectors as questionable Buddhism because relying on external force is not Buddhism. Buddhists are inner beings. They rely on their inner wisdom to achieve enlightenment. Dorjee Shugden represents fundamentalism. This fundamentalism is contrary to His Holiness's message of love and tolerance. And His Holiness's efforts to unite all of the Tibet lineages in peace and harmony. This is critical to maintain Tibet's unique culture from being destroyed by the Chinese occupiers that now occupy Tibet. Dorjee Shugden supporters are free to practice their religion, just not in the Gelug tradition under which the Dalai Lama is a de facto leader of. It is important to understand the difference between an oppression of religious freedom. No legitimate agency considers this anything but an internal conflict within Tibetan Buddhist pantheon and belief structure. Dorjee Shugden practitioners are free to start their own monasteries in India and America and free to practice how they please.